Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I'm your host, the Football Grump, and with me as always is Mike the Cranky Fan.
Feel the pride, man.
I got something like that over here.
We are victorious.
Oh, I got this thing. Quest Diagnostics.
Always be advertising. Yeah, Grump. We are recording this on a Monday night, and we are happy.
I am happy.
Yeah, win's a win. You know, we live in a very cynical world where, everybody, has to be, a smart ass on Twitter or snarky, but...
I've kind of made a career of that, actually.
Yeah, exactly. But, something, don't take wins for granted. At some point in the rest of our lifetime, maybe later than sooner, but this Giants football team will be good again. And... we'll be winning 10, 11, 12 games a year. Don't take those wins for granted. I mean, lean years like this when wins are few and far between and we're happy and we celebrate and we feel like, a big weight is, lifted from our shoulders. Remember this feeling when we get good again, because it's important to savor these wins and, nurture them, keep them in your memories. This is a little hyperbole here, but I'm just happy we won. And, it's a big commitment being a Giant fan. You know what it's like to go to the Meadowlands. You have to schlep all the way out there. We take, a few trains. We walk all the way to the tailgate. We have a good time with our boys tailgating, and we go to the game, and for 3 hours we're, living and dying every play. You come home, you're exhausted. It's a lot of effort, and it's nice every once in a while to be rewarded with a victory. So thank you, Giants, and we're on our way to bigger and better things, I guess.
Yeah, I think we all went to bed, last night with a smile on our face as we drifted off to sleep, recapping the game and whatever.
Well, I was super pissed because I went to the Knick game after, and then they
that's your
completely pissed away the game. So, all the good feelings I had from 1 to 4, kind of part of them were flushed away, from 6 to 9:30. But point being made, but the Giant side of my brain was very happy last night.
Yeah, and you know what? The feeling on Sunday. What about the feeling during the game? I mean, we'll get into the game and like the intricacies of what was good, what was bad, but it was pretty exciting. I mean, we got a pick six in there, a strip sack to end the game. There was another big interception on a deep ball down there. It was kind of fun. I mean, like, I don't know. It felt like right from the get-go, the Giants' opening drive with the touchdown pass to Evan Ingram, it felt like the crowd was never that, like, cynical Bronx cheery crowd that's been even when we've won game. Like, even in the Carolina game, it felt like that, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that was a dead building, that Carolina game.
It was.
There was a bit of a buzz in here. I mean, there were a lot of Raider fans.
There always is, yeah.
That's not unexpected, but, when you get a large fan base, and not like, a rah-rah fan base, like if there's a bunch of Packer fans, when you get, a bunch of dicks come in, and you can put Raider fans up there with Cowboy fans for front-running style over, substance type of fans, it's going to elicit emotion from you as a Giant fan. So you had that going for you, where the place was a little, it was an exciting atmosphere anyway because of that. And the first drive and that beautiful catch by Ingram, it kind of got this crowd going, and it lasted for the full 3 hours.
Yeah, I mean, like, even like rewatching it, I mean, actually looked more brutal than it felt like in the stadium. When I look back at it, I was remembering like, wow, like some kind of actual running game happening here, and like, that's kind of sad. Wow, this is a pathetic podcast, but it's true. I mean, like, the game wasn't really super exciting. I mean, offensively for both teams, they looked a little bit sluggish. And some of that was some really good defense. I mean, they have 2 really good edge rushers against our weak O-line. And just overall conservative gameplay. And quite frankly, we have a very good secondary that was making a decent offense look bad. So maybe the product was less exciting because there weren't a lot of long catches or anything like that. But there certainly was a lot of action. There was a lot of, I don't know, that was a fun, exciting game. I would have been pissed if we lost it. We even had a 25-yard missed field goal in this game. Wow, we had everything.
You know something? You say we were pissed if we would have lost. It makes the loss to Kansas City makes me even more pissed, because that was a winnable game, which could have changed the trajectory of the season. I mean, nobody had Dallas, playing as bad as they did. And then, if we sneak away with that win in Kansas City, win this game also, you're looking at a team that's won 3 out of 4 and is only 2 behind Dallas. Yeah. Now they're still, we're still way in their rearview mirror right now, but it would have been nice to put just enough of they're sort of back there. Mm-hmm. So that just makes me more frustrated from that game. But that, again, we're talking a game that was 7 to 8 days ago, and the matter at hand is what happened, on Sunday, and even though it's not 3 out of 4, it's 2 out of 4, and this is not the dire straits we felt like we were in 4 weeks ago, for sure.
Yeah, it's so frustrating because they really started to do some things once Andrew Thomas was out. Like the one guy they couldn't lose on the offensive line. I mean, when I watched him go down and not get up at the the Rams game? I forget what game that was. Once I saw that happen, I was ready to chalk up the entire season in that moment. And I was like week 4 or something. That's really my reaction to Andrew Thomas going down. So the fact that they've played up to this level of competition, even in losses, played up to that level of competition, again against the Chiefs, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Panthers without him. I just kind of wish that they were playing at that level when they had him, because I think there were some games in there they could have done more. Well, we have a whole podcast dedicated to that. So
that goes back, I think. Why wish they would have played that earlier. Well, maybe if we didn't take the whole preseason off and didn't have this team prepared at the start of the season, you might have seen those things when he was there. I mean, this season kind of really started with week 3 and week 4, where they started to show signs of a team that was prepared to play games. So my big hope for this offseason coming up is that there's a change in attitude to how the preseason's handled.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Around the league too. I mean, as a football fan, obviously we're Giant fans. We want the Giants to succeed, but we want the product. This is Sundays are special, and whether you have Red Zone or you're just flipping around channels or whatever, you want to watch good product in the field, and you don't want to see garbage early on. If you're also thinking about it from a gambling standpoint, most of you people out there are in survivor pools, and you don't want to be knocked out in week 1 because you think a team is going to be good and they crap the bed because they're not prepared to start the season. So let's do what we used to do and prepare. Use the preseason for what it's supposed to be, is preparation for the season.
So let's start on the defensive side of the ball. The defense really was the star of this game. I don't know. Okay, whatever. I gave Patrick Graham a star. That's not really where I meant to go with that. But the defense was the highlight of this team on Sunday. They really turned Derek Carr into just a complete check down QB who, and they even baited him into throwing downfield where he shouldn't have. I think that they just completely spun his head around, and I think that they were just lost offensively. I mean, to the point where it seemed like they forgot that they were doing pretty well at running the ball and getting Josh Jacobs the ball in stride and things like that. They were doing some things that worked, and then they got away from it when I guess when the pick 6 happened. But I mean,
Jacobs got hurt too.
Yeah, but I mean, there were also just concepts, and that they started to revisit it super late in the game. But I think that they had, in that final drive towards the end zone, they started to revisit some of the concepts that were working, and whatever. But so you were talking kind of about the preseason and going into this season and just kind of resting a little bit, maybe, It seems to me that Patrick Graham wants to run this man coverage scheme, And they went out, they got Adoree Jackson to help with that, and that certainly does help. And, he wants to run a lot of exotic blitzes and things like that and just stay into man coverage, be more aggressive up front. And it wasn't working at the beginning of the year, and they've just thrown it away now, and they're just going to go back to what was working last year, which is like flood the defensive backfield, a very bend, don't break defense. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they just aren't able to get any pressure with the front four guys. But
that's right.
Credit to, at this point, I don't know who it is who's commanding that we just abandon that shit and move on. But, whether it's Patrick Graham himself, whether it's Joe Judge, whether it's John Mara, it doesn't really matter. This scheme that Patrick Graham has implemented now for essentially 2 years, I guess a year and a half, has been, I don't want to say lights out, but it's been remarkable considering,
It keeps this team with a limited offense right now in games. And
yeah,
that's all you could really ask. I think that's the bottom line. As this team, over time, hopefully overhauls the offensive line some more, gets these guys healthy again. They ever see Barkley again. They ever get receivers that are healthy again. They're not going to be relying on having to play like these low-scoring slogs. But until that moment happens, their only chance to win games is to keep it low. They're not going to win shootouts. So, this is working for now. This type of bend don't break, because they're not generating a pass rush on their own, and they've been trying. And credit to the coaching staff, whoever makes those calls or whatever. They're adjusting on the fly. How many coaches do we see that are stubborn and don't make changes? So at least they are kind of adapting to what works, what doesn't work, the personnel they have, who's not injured, and all those things.
Yeah, and on top of that, they also kind of audibled on us. Surprise healthy scratch for this game was O'Shane Ximines. Just benching the draft pick and playing Quincy Rochet, who was, also a draft pick, but picked up on the waiver wire. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
They're going to play him. They're going to play Trent Harris. Those guys got playing time. Ellerson Smith has been hurt all year on IR. They've activated him, and he was active for that game. He can't possibly be in, game-ready shape. Yeah, he just can't be.
We just talked about how this team took 3 weeks to be in game shape because of the preseason, so there's zero chance he'd be ready. But
there's also the fact that this guy was at Northern Iowa. He didn't even have a 2020 season in college. It's just not possible. So, either this is a pretty extreme punishment for him jumping off sides last week, or
that's ridiculous.
Right, that has to be completely ridiculous. That just has to be another.
That's cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's like that's not in the best interest of the team to prove a point.
Yeah, but it's not completely ignored. It's either strictly because of that, or that was just another part of his overall unimpressive play. You know what I mean? Like, on top of the fact that he jumped off sides, he's just not very good at getting after the quarterback. He's not exceedingly good at anything. He's just there. And here we have Quincy Rochet. Inexplicably fell pretty far in the draft, and then inexplicably cut from Pittsburgh. We're getting something out of him. So, hats off for adjusting on the fly.
Yeah. And also, if you want to put that in the ledger for Dave Gettleman for finding him and bringing him in, because we're in the business of not giving him any credit for anything.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
And he found him.
Yeah, I don't know. Does that come at the expense of Dave Gettleman drafting O'Shane Ximines, though?
Well, that's
it's just like.
But the draft pick's a sunk cost. It's like, what do you do now?
Yeah, and, I agree. You take that for what it is now. You draft who you draft, and they either pan out or they don't. If they're not a second round pick or higher, there's a decent chance that they won't pan out. So
and just because someone is a second round pick or a third round pick or a first round pick, that doesn't mean they have carte blanche to play like garbage for 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
It's you're drafted, great. Now you're a member of the roster, and you have to earn your way for playing time into the starting rotation, blah, blah, blah. So good that they're not playing the patronage system of, well, you're a first round pick, so you get special privilege and longer leash than other players are.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of an example where that might be, and I don't know. I feel like there probably is some instance of that somewhere. I mean, I don't know why Nate Ebner is here. It's not really a draft status thing, but whatever.
There's always contract considerations. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe the guy's a great practice player, just doesn't pan out. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those heads in the room kind of signings or something. Let's talk about Xavier Mckinney here. Obvious star for the game, right? Just another one of those guys in the secondary. But I mean, he's the guy who came up pretty big here, and I was in game, like pretty pissed, pretty critical of him. There was a long completion to Darren Waller where it looked like he didn't kind of drive on it. He just kind of jumped up like the ball was going to come to him, and obviously Darren Waller just kind of jumped right in front of him, took the catch, whatever. And I was pretty pissed about that. And that was probably the only play in the game that I had any issue with Xavier McKinney. And following that, the pick six right out of the gate in the second half. I mean, just absolutely great. Just jumped right in front of the rim. It's a bad pass by Derek Carr as well, being behind Hunter Renfrow. But also, Hunter Renfrow wasn't really that open. I mean, it kind of had to be a perfect pass to even be completed. So, jumps right in front of the route, takes it to the house. Also, I love how he just, like, casually right arms Renfrow right into the dirt on his way in there. And then later on, the Giants audible into this single high look where he's playing center field and just reads. And this is the way. It seems that they kind of baited Derek Carr into audibling into like some kind of double move deep ball or something like that, because Xavier McKinney broke on that shit like immediately, was going to that side, and there was reason to believe that it could have come to the other side. So they must have seen something that they thought that they could bait him into, and it worked.
Absolutely.
So, and both of those plays were absolutely critical to this game. I mean, without the pick six, I'm not sure that who knows if we're even in it at that point.
If we're going to generate enough offense to win a game like that. So, I mean, that's kind of been one of the problems with this team, as, the ability to get chunk plays for quick points and defensive turnovers, which either shorten the field for your offense or instant points. So getting that changes everything. It's just less stress on your offense to have to score, and it's not easy when you're grinding out long drives every time to score.
It's kind of easy to forget that this is only McKinney's 14th game.
Yeah.
So he missed so much time last year.
That's right. It was like that we were just kind of waiting. It's like we knew we had this guy, but it's wait till he's healthy, and now he's finally healthy, and it's good.
Yeah. It kind of feels like we're starting to see him, like the potential of him being our free safety. Like he's kind of growing in front of our eyes because his time was split between years.
Right.
I mean, hats off. That was some game from him. I didn't really expect him to be the benefactor of turnovers. How about this? Who would have guessed that if two quarterbacks were going to come out of this game, one would have one fumble and 2 interceptions, and the other would have 1 fumble? Who would have guessed it would be Daniel Jones with only 1 fumble?
Well, me, because he hasn't had that many turnovers in the last, 2/3 of the season so far. He had a bunch early on, and really the number of turnovers he has not been a lot. And also, we talked about this at the game. Quarterbacks turn the ball over sometimes. It doesn't matter who you are. If there's a strip sack or something, or a hit from the backside, or somebody jumps a route and the other team makes a play, there's going to be a pick. It happens. So we can't all of a sudden, every time there's a turnover, even though they may not have had one in 5 games, been like, oh, same old Daniel Jones, he never learns. It's like, no. I mean, you can just chart it. You can see the amount of turnovers has gone down over time, and, the other team makes plays too. He's not throwing against air. He's not running around in his shorts in August, like just, taking a snap from center, waiting and throwing. So I think we have to stop. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago I said I stopped evaluating Daniel Jones as can he be a starter and just said, well, he's my starting quarterback. And
right, yeah, I think that was after the Saints game or something like that.
Yeah, and that's another example. It's like he fumbled. It's like, all right, well, he fumbled. I mean, Eli Manning's going to fumble.
Tom Brady fumbles. Everybody fumbles.
Ben Roethlisberger's going to fumble. Everybody does. So it's having a game where you have a clean game with no turnovers is rather rare. It happens. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm guessing less than 50% of the time you play with no turnovers. There's always going to be something that happens. So
it really is like the dumbest thing, because if he's turnover prone, then so is Derek Carr. They both have 8 turnovers this year.
Yeah,
it's exactly. Like whatever. I mean, you're right. It's time to just look at him as like a quarterback, and a quarterback has the ball, and occasionally people who have the ball drop it. It just happens. They have the ball in their hands for like 45 minutes of the game. But yeah, so I don't know. Was there anything else particularly on the defense that stood out to you?
Well, I mean, they kept everything in front of them, like you said. We think this is a new, going back to last year's philosophy. I mean, do you think when we play better offenses down the line, this is the way to play defense against these teams, or you think this is just how we're playing now, just dealing with the injuries that we have?
Well, this I don't think is a reaction to injuries. I think this is a reaction to we don't generate enough disruption with only 4 or 5, sometimes 5 guys. I mean, we generate nothing. So
that's true.
The man coverage, it's asking way too much of even really good man corners, because I mean the quarterback isn't even panicking. He's not even moving off the spot from our pressure. So I mean, I think this is more of a reaction to like there's just literally no edge presence on this team, And so it's just like we're just going to get gashed if we keep doing this. So we might as well go back to what we did last year, because we had no edge presence.
That makes sense.
It's my theory. I could be wrong, but I mean, as I'm watching it, it's like we watched the first couple weeks. It's not really like the corners are way off in coverage or anything like that. It's decent coverage, but the quarterback has so much time to pinpoint his laser. Like, I mean, it's practice for him.
It seemed like the beginning of the year they were playing a lot further off than they are now. That seems to be the second adjustment, I think.
Well, that as well, yeah. Those were like a lot of the underneath things. I mean, they were just running, 6-yard stop routes because we were playing 10 yards off the ball.
Exactly, and just matriculating down the field that way.
I still don't know what the purpose of that was. I don't know if that was just fear that our safeties couldn't get over top and we didn't want to get beat deep, or what that was, but I couldn't figure that one out. But yeah, you're right. I had forgotten about how like soft we were playing sometimes in coverage.
Mm-hmm. But the good thing is it's not happening as much anymore. So
no. I will say here is the one thing I'm going to say. I am giving a fart on the defensive side for the tackling again. Especially in the secondary. It's been an issue for a few weeks and it's cropping up again. Look, if we're going to play this coverage and swarm defense where we're only rushing 4 and maybe we have a linebacker as a spy or something, and then when everybody else is kind of just converging down, then you have to converge down, because eliminating the yak is everything at that point, because you're giving up already. You're giving up 5, 4, 6 yards on these passes, just giving them the route. But you got to stop them right there. That's the whole point to this. And, there were a lot of instances on Sunday where there was some really poor tackling in the secondary. I mean, there were also some really good ones. Logan Ryan had an excellent tackle on 3rd down to keep Hunter Renfrow from getting any yak whatsoever, spun him down to the ground, forced a 4th down. I think that was the 25-yard missed field goal, actually. So it was even more important. Yes. But there were plenty of instances of bad ones, and it's got that. If we're gonna play this, that's fine. I think I get why, and it seems to work. But we have to get the tackling under control.
Absolutely, that's the only way bend don't break doesn't work, as long as you don't break, and a missed tackle is a break.
Yeah, exactly. And just one more thing on Xavier McKinney before we flip over to the offensive side. Man, he almost didn't play yesterday. Did you imagine that?
Serendipity, as Walt Frazier would say in the Knick games. Yeah, it's pretty ironic that he was almost out, and he is the star of the game in our book.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if he played, we'd be doing this podcast. It's like, I think maybe if Xavier Mckinney, we had a shot. You know what I mean? Like, it's like actually seeing that in reality. It's kind of weird. Let's flip over. Yeah, so to the offensive side of the ball. Really, really conservative game plan. They did lean pretty heavily on the run, which was something I thought that we could really exploit. We try to run a lot. We run a lot of heavy formations. They don't really have that many big guys on the defensive line anyway. I mean, like right from the get-go, they're not really a run-first defense anyway. So that kind of played to our advantage, even though we're not really good at running the ball. It's just something we try to do.
We saw a couple of 3 tight end sets, didn't we?
Yeah, well, we saw some 3 tight end sets without a tight end. I mean, we had oh, and also there was like one play where we went out there in the heaviest possible formation. Well, I guess not, but we went out in there into like a 3 tight end set with Corey Cunningham, practice squad tackle, playing tight end as jumbo tight end next to Nate Solder, and I think like Kyle Rudolph was next to him or something, and he just completely whiffed on Max Crosby, and Devontae Booker lost 3 yards. I shouldn't laugh because that is actually not funny at all, but it was a total disaster. But overall, we had one of the best running game days that I can remember in a while. I mean, Booker ran 21 carries for 99 yards is a 4.7 average, are numbers that I haven't said for anyone outside of Barkley, who had like a couple of like 200-yard gains in like 2019.
And the thing we kept saying during the game was, if that was Barkley, that's 30 yards. If that was Barkley, that goes to the house. So, we are dealing with a backup running back who is, playing really, really well, behind a banged up line, and they were still executing.
Yeah.
And that's the encouraging thing, is you're seeing the execution. We're just not seeing quite the skill set that we need to turn a 5-yard run into a 20-yard run or getting to the next level or something. But at least they're doing their job and doing what they need to do now. So you can, it is about extending drives and moving the chains and, field position and time possession and all that's very, very, very important. So nice to see.
One thing I did notice, I don't think there was a single zone read run. Outside of the Kadarius Toney trick play, which was stupid. I wonder.
I think that's by design. I think they're making a conscious effort to keep Daniel Jones healthy.
I think it's a combination of things. I think that they want to not bang him around too much. I think that they are trying not to rely on that too much in general. Like, I think they want to use that to its fullest advantage by not overusing it. You know what I mean? Like, I think they want to keep that play, in their back pocket for games where we haven't used it in a while and teams may have forgotten about it,
Yeah, something, it's pretty successful.
It's been less and less successful the last couple of weeks, though. I mean, it's still some of our best plays, but I mean, there was times in the past where we've run that play and it's only gone for like 15 yards or more, and then the last couple of weeks is like if we're they're just playing disciplined football, so it's not really even Daniel Jones running anymore. He's just handing it off because they are covering Daniel Jones as a runner. You know what I mean? It's like it just looks like a draw play, but they are zone read runs. So it's really just not working anymore because...
But it's also a complementary play, too. I mean, this isn't college where that's the offense. You've seen plenty of teams in college where they just run that every play, and it's just like he's just reading that crashing end coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, if we run it 5, 6, 7 times a game here, that's not like you're just overusing it to death, but not using it at all, to me, is a bit of a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because Daniel Jones still probably... right now is probably our most gifted runner on the current active roster.
I wonder also if they maybe just had a little bit more respect for the speed of Yannick Ngakoue and Max Crosby at end. Though both, I mean, to me, I would think that both of those guys would be people you can exploit for overrunning, being over aggressive, jumping inside.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they disagree, or maybe there were some zone read runs and I just missed it. But I mean, I rewatched the game twice.
I don't remember seeing any. Again, my thought was during the game, they're trying to keep Daniel Jones upright, and they don't want him. They're trying to minimize when they want him to get hurt.
Yeah, I do think that's part of it. I don't think that you're wrong in that. I think it's a little bit more than just that.
Oh, it could be a combination of things too.
But to not take anything away from it, Devontae Booker did have a really good game. Like I said, 21 carries for 99 yards, 4.7 yard average. He had a long of 20 yards for this game. But also in the receiving game, 3 catches on 3 targets for 23 yards. So he went over 100 for the day.
He gets a star.
Yeah, he got the game ball in the locker room too from Joe Judge.
Is that 2 games in a row over 100 combined yards?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm gonna look that up. But also, he looks like he's just running better at the same time. It's like there were times in the past couple games where you could see a hole was kind of opening up and, he's kind of banging through there and not really looking upright, and he's not running to the hole that opened up. You know what I mean? There's a couple of times where there's like a wide open hole and he just missed it or something like that. It seems like now he's really just bursting through there. I mean, we had like a 3rd and 1 or something and he gained like 20 yards on it. He just kind of ripped right through the backside hole on the left. I mean, I thought he ran really, really well. And he went out because I think he got banged up, and Eli Penny came in and he also had some success as well.
Booker looked like an NFL running back, like a starting running back is what he looked like, which is great. Let's build some depth back there because at some point when Barkley comes back, we're gonna need a rotation anyway. So it's good to know you can count on him.
Yeah. That was my only offensive star. I did want to give an honorable mention though to Evan Ingram. I think he started to play a little bit better as well.
That was my star.
That was your star? All right, go ahead. You tell me all about Evan Ingram.
I was giving him a star because the guy's caught a lot of grief from Giant fans. He's been a choke artist. Let's be honest. When we need him the most, he's failed at the biggest spotlights. Big plays and big points of games against our biggest rivals on national TV where everybody sees it. Apparently, those who vote for the Pro Bowl don't see it, but we see it. And that was a hell of a catch, that touchdown. And we need him. He didn't get traded at the deadline. He's going to be here the rest of the year. We have a long season left. We have a wide receiver crew that just shuffles in and out being injured or just not getting the targets they should, or for whatever reason, we're going to count on him. And we're going to need him to make plays and be part of that rotation. So that was, to me, very important, that catch, that there's still confidence in him, in this coaching staff, this quarterback, the rest of this team, that he can be a weapon for the rest of the year. So I'm giving him kind of like a pat on the back star. To say, good catch, but good job, buddy. Keep it up.
Man, you had it all the way up into the end, and then you just like the most backhanded compliment ever. Well, it's like, I'm going to put this game right on the fridge for you.
Well, exactly. I mean, I'm not going out and running and getting an Evan Ingram jersey tomorrow. But
yeah, I get it. You're right. I'm
going to give credit where credit is due, and I think it was maybe that kind of turns something around for him the rest of this year, and he's more a part of the offense and makes more big plays and things. But that was a big play, and it was a great catch too. Great throw as well. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. It was a great throw, but it was not a perfect throw. I mean, a perfect throw would have been a little bit higher, so it would have been out of reach. But that was a great catch. I mean, he just kind of plucked it right out of the air, and then he stayed upright and everything. That was good. A 30-yard pass play. Also, they kind of used him on a vertical route, which is what I've been screaming about since pretty much draft day with him.
Yeah.
So, it's nice to know. But also, he went 3 for 3 for 38 yards. He got the touchdown, but also had a 12-yard defensive pass interference called on him on a 2nd and 13. So, I mean, we were back to – I think that might have been after the 3-yard loss from Booker. We ran him out on like a wheel, and he drew kind of a weak DPI. But, I mean – he had a
weak at this point.
But I mean, he had a guy like dragging behind him, and he passed him. He was getting open. I honestly think it was kind of a bad pass by Jones, but these are things that that DPI does so much for this offense. Being in 2nd and 13 is almost insurmountable for this offense. So getting that DPI is incredibly valuable. I mean,
sure.
It just is. I mean, all right, you want to go into how much the offense sucks? I mean, what do you want to talk about?
Let me ask you something. How would you evaluate Jason Garrett over the last 3-4 weeks as opposed to the beginning of the season? Are you seeing any more things that you like, or is it just your opinion hasn't changed much of his play calling? And I'm not talking about
the overall philosophy. You're just talking about the play calling?
Both. I mean, and let's not include in that, because I know fans are so quick to say, going forward as opposed to kicking, oh, that's Garrett. That's not Jason Garrett. That's the head coach. I was arguing with someone on Twitter about that. Those type of decisions in a game are made by the head coach.
Now, Jason Garrett said it himself.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive coordinator has been hired to kind of run a basic philosophy that a head coach wants, but decision-making and key points of the game, that's not like, okay, which running back are we going to play on this play, or what type of play? It's, punt or go for it, field goal or go for it. That's done by the head coach.
Yeah.
But back to my question though, are you feeling better about the play calling of Jason Garrett, or are you still in the same mindset you were a month ago with him?
Well, I don't know where the call was coming from to be super conservative anymore. We initially just straight up blamed Garrett because it was easy to lump the overall philosophy of being conservative in with the conservative play calling. It seems like it's one idea when it's like that. But, as we've seen, just conservative time management by Joe Judge, conservative everything from Joe Judge, and the play calling is sort of opening up. I mean, to answer your question, overall, I mean, there's problems with this offense, and I think it's to mask problems on the offensive line. It's a reaction to it, but I think it's an overreaction. It's way, way, way too conservative.
That could be. I mean, it's not. We're not seeing, open season on Daniel Jones every play. It's not an offensive line's gas every play by a pass rush. I mean, it's not ideal. It's not optimal. We're not getting gaping holes for the running backs to run through, but it's not also the sieve that it could be or has been either. Maybe we need to play call around this new reality of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I get it. I do. I get the fact that you come into this season and you're like, well, Andrew Thomas, he's good. We think he's good, but he's still got to keep getting better. And the other side, I mean, we just don't know. I mean, when you go into the season kind of thinking like that, you're already holding back because you just don't trust it. And then Andrew Thomas goes down. I get it. I understand where this is coming from, but it's asking too much of, the people involved. It's asking too much of Daniel Jones to throw a perfectly placed ball every time he has to drop back and throw. It's asking too much of that receiver to make a contested catch or win on those routes when he's only looking at two guys. You're asking those two guys to execute perfectly. And I know they're professionals and whatever, but they're playing against professionals. This is not how the game is played. The reason other teams are more successful is because they don't do that.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. We said that these guys aren't playing against air.
Yeah.
They're playing against NFL guys and sometimes against really, really good NFL guys too. They are going to make plays. I think the play calling is getting they're opening up the books a little more. I think more of that is because of Daniel Jones more than perceptions of the offensive line or out there. I think Daniel Jones is getting more and more command of this offense. He just seems a lot more comfortable under center than he was even earlier this year. He doesn't look like a guy who's trying to figure things out. He's not. You never see the play clock running down to 1 and 0.
That's true.
He looks like he's getting it, and the more he gets it, the more they're going to feed him with the complete book.
That's fair because a lot of this offense is relying on timing, and you can see that the timing is off. I mean, even from the beginning, we run these like jet sweep like fake handoffs. The ball's not even snapped yet. You can see the throws are mistimed coming out of the break, and some of that mistiming is due to the fact that Daniel Jones isn't comfortable in the pocket because he's got guys in his face so fast. Some of it is that, but some of it is probably just because he's never comfortable. This rhythm just never starts. I mean, like, I think even in practice, the first string defense is in his face. You know what I mean? It's just I don't want to blame it like all in one place, right? Because at a certain point, like, Jones has to get better. These receivers have to get better. The coaches have to coach better. There's a million things that need to be tweaked and better. But I think the fact that, like, his O-line can't even block his own D-line in practice to you know what I mean? They just never seem like they're in a rhythm to get the timing down. There's never like a full drive where it feels like it's just bam, 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 bam. It never feels like that except opening scripted drives.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that to do with the offensive line, a lot to do with also, every week we've had a different assortment, a cast of characters of what receivers are available to.
Yeah, that's definitely another challenge.
I mean, have we had 2 games in a row where we've had the same, 3 receivers play?
I don't think so. Maybe 2 games in a row from the Saints to Dallas or something.
That has to impact your timing and just, everything. Everything is off a little bit. You have to adjust to it and constantly adjust. So that's, we talk about the offensive line, being issues, but just who's being shuffled in and out is impacting as well. Yeah. Which makes everything Daniel Jones is doing more and more impressive with all of the, the headwinds he's facing this season. It's
just so like I said, like, I do get it, but I hope when Andrew Thomas comes, I hope that they are figuring something out. They're taking the next 14 or whatever days to sit down with, like, a pot of coffee, a pencil, and some pieces of paper to draw something up for when Andrew. Dude, whatever, man. I don't care what they do. I want something different when Andrew Thomas comes back in the lineup, hopefully after the bye week, because. Well, they went out and they bought Kenny Golladay, okay? He's not even being used when he's in the game. And when we do throw to him, he makes the catches in this game. 2 catches, 2 targets.
I'm going to give that a little bit of a pass because it was his first game back.
I mean, Kadarius Toney, we gave him some horseshit trick plays, and then the one play that he's targeted as an actual receiver, he picks up like 11 yards and a first down.
I'm going to give a fart to Jason Garrett. And I think I'm going to give a fart to this whole league, I think. This league is becoming a little too, if not dependent on, just too predictable on the trick plays. I mean, if you just go around red zone and you're watching these random games, how many times are you seeing a halfback option or a Philly special or something? It's like, and how often do you see them actually being successful? It seems like it's a pretty low percentage play and just unnecessary. I mean, I railed against when we did it, that Giant special where I wouldn't want Daniel Jones getting hurt right after a concussion. I just the potential for success for it isn't great enough to be doing these silly plays, and to me they're wasted plays. So I would like to see enough. Kadarius Toney, again, I watched every snap of that guy 4 years in college. I think I saw him throw it once. And now he's had, 3 attempts so far with the Giants?
It's like 3 in 3 weeks, basically.
Yeah, enough. I mean...
the old man Cranky fan over here.
It's just, what are we getting out of it? I think it takes the offense out of rhythm, and I think, there's greater chance for penalty, there's greater chance for turnover. It's just, the risk-reward is just not there for me.
I think you're kind of right. What we're seeing now with trick plays around the league, it does kind of feel like
you have to do it.
What was it, like 2010 or something? Maybe 2009 when like Tony Sparano was the coach of the Dolphins and ran like the Wildcat, and then like the whole league implemented some version of the Wildcat into their thing and played it once a game.
I want to say it was a little earlier than that, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it is kind of like that. With like the Philly specials and stuff around the league. Like every team has it now.
It's always been a copycat league, but it almost seems like when teams doing it, it's like so forced. Like, we have to do it. We don't want to. It's like we don't want to keep our timeouts in our going into halftime and keep them in our pockets. Like, we don't want to. we came up with our trick plan. We have to do it at some point, and then when they have it, they have to execute it. It's like, if the throw isn't there, just put it in your pocket and run for 3 yards. But no, they got to throw it.
So all right, you know what? I'm going to agree with you. They've been overusing Tony as the quarterback gadget guy. When they drafted him and people were like, "Oh, you guys drafted a gadget guy," I was like the guy who was like, "He's not a gadget receiver. He is an actual receiver that just also happened to play quarterback in high school." I even said I can't see us using him in trick situations very much. I thought it would happen, but
earlier in his Florida career, he was a bit of a gadget guy. I mean, also. The Gators had, they had guys like Van Jefferson and Freddie Swain and, Kyle Pitts on the roster. They had NFL-ready receivers ahead of him. So how to get him onto the field and get that talent onto the field was to be a guy who was getting end arounds and lining up as a running back every once in a while and crazy stuff. But he didn't throw the ball at Florida. And it's just like, it became a story during the draft. Right after the draft, it was like, oh, somebody realized he was a high school quarterback, and that became a narrative. And it's like they have to kind of coach up to the narrative that really isn't a reality. And I just
okay, so now you're venturing too far in where I'm saying. So I think that in this circumstance where we've seen him do it a bunch of times in a row now, I think it's been worked in as a way to open up the offense without good blocking. You know what I mean? They expect at this point that this offense they're going to have to throw something in there to get chunk plays because it's not very good. So I think they've overused it the same way that I think they've started to overuse the zone read for Daniel Jones. I mean, as you're running it constantly, it's going to stop working. And I think that's why. I don't think that they drafted him for this, and B, I don't think that they saw that he can do this and they're like, yes, we need to run this all the time. I think this is a reaction again to the injuries on the team and the deficiencies in the offensive line. I mean, they can't run an offense right now. They need chunk plays.
I'm gonna push back a little on the zone read. If you use it won't work, because the zone read doesn't have one outcome every time you run it. I mean, it's you can either stick it in the running back's belly and he goes, or you pull it back out and you do something with it. So if you execute it the same way over and over, it could be overused and be ineffective. But if you're running it well, it should be almost like, reading that edge rusher's eyes and doing that right decision. It comes down to decision making as much as execution. Where this,
I get it, but I mean. Again, when you run a zone read, what you are really counting on is that someone is going to overplay their position. You're counting on someone being too aggressive, which is the same concept of a wide receiver throwback.
And also to commit. Also,
well, yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's what that is. You throw to Kadarius Toney on the left side, and he's gonna actually aim deep. That's to get guys crashing forward so that this guy going deep is wide open. It's the same concept. It's the same trickery. It's exploiting their aggressiveness and not playing to their assignment and who they're supposed to do. So, I mean, it's the same kind of idea. And again, you're right, because the zone read is a two-option thing. If the guy does play his key correctly, then you just hand it off and you still have a viable play there. Whereas if you do the trick play and people you've lost. I mean, that's a nothing play now, pretty much. So it is slightly different, but I'm actually going to swing my dishonorable mention somewhere else. I've given the offensive game planning a fart. We're in agreement there. Keon Crossan. I mean, this is the special teams guy, and he did make up for it a little bit at the end. He forced a fumble in a very, very late game on the punt to them. We didn't recover it, but I mean, he can only do so much on that, so whatever. But he gets the penalty for lighting up the punter. I rewatched it. I think maybe he didn't know that the play was not going on behind him anymore, and his guy was the punter, but that is no excuse for that. It's like really just drilled this dude. It was really stupid. Yeah. And then also the next punt is the one where it was just flying down. It was just rolling with a Giants bounce, and I guess he thought that they touched it, so he ran up there and grabbed it and stopped the forward advance. I mean, you're the special teams guy. Two special teams fucking mistakes. I mean, come on, man. That can't happen.
he was very adamant pretty much right away. Who? We're recording this as we're watching the Monday night game is on, and Chicago just scored twice in. Nope, never mind. Hold on. Oh, you know what it was? It was Roethlisberger threw forward and the ball came out of his hand, so they're calling it incomplete, but it really could have been a fumble. Oh, it's a clear incomplete. But they just scored on a turnover. 6 points. It was almost 2 touchdowns in a minute, not from their offense. That would have been something. So, sorry for that.
Yeah, what?
That drift. What was it? Oh, the punt. Yeah, he very quickly was motioning that, it was touched, and he thought it was a turnover. So
yeah, but still, I mean, you have to see Cam Brown is standing right there watching it. I mean, I don't know. He looked like a total dummy either way, it was a huge mistake.
The result was he looked like a total dummy. That is correct.
Well, thankfully, that's all that result was. I mean, it could have been, who knows? I mean, that could have been a safety for something. You know what I mean? Who knows how long that would have rolled for? Mm-hmm. We set them up inside their own 5, and we just lose that opportunity. It's a game of inches, man.
Right, game it.
All right, that's going to do it for us. We're going to, maybe we'll do an NFC East wrap-up or something like that, going into the next week or something like that. But we're not taking the bye week off. We're going to be doing little things here and there throughout the week, so stay tuned. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. I'm at @football_grump. He's at the Cranky Fan. This is at Just Giants Pod. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube as well, where these episodes are probably best enjoyed in my opinion. And
get to see our smiling faces after a victory.
Yeah, that's right, and our pouty faces when we lose. So, we will see you in a couple of days. Go Giants!
Go Giants!